Hi guys, welcome to week 5 of English Composition and Research. Let's get started. This week we'll go over some of the punctuations like period, exclamation mark, question marks, all that fun stuff. Hyphens. Fundamentally, the hyphen is a joiner. It can join several different types of things. 2 nouns to make one complete word, an adjective and a noun to make a compound word, 2 words that when linked describe a noun, a prefix with a noun, double numbers like 24, 35, numbers and units describing a noun, 1,000, foot, face, a 10-meter difference, prefixes and suffixes to words. In particular, when the writer wants to avoid doubling a vowel or tripling a consonant, like anti-inflammatory. Multiple adjectives with the same noun, blue and yellow, green bees, 4 and 5-year-olds. A rule of thumb for the hyphen is that the resulting word must act as one unit. Therefore, the hyphen creates a new word that has a single meaning. Dashes. The dash functions almost as a colon, thus in that it adds to the preceding material, but with extra emphasis, like a caesura, a timely pause in music. A dash indicates a strong pause and gives an emphasis to a material following the pause. In effect, a dash allows you to redefine what was just written, making it more explicit. You can also use a pair of dashes in place of parentheses to frame an interruptive or parenthetical type comment that you do not want to de-emphasize. Parentheses, brackets, and ellipses. Parentheses are used to set off information in a sentence that is important, but not really a part of the main message. The brackets are a fairly uncommon, which means it's not common, punctuation mark. Their main use is in quotations. They can be used to clarify quotes. Now, when do we use apostrophes? With possessives or showing ownership. The apostrophe is used in combination with an S to indicate that a word literally or conceptually possesses what follows it. Plural possessives. Making plural words possessive can be confusing at times because we so often add an S to a noun to make it plural. Contractions. A contraction is a shortened phrase. He will becomes he'll. Are not becomes aren't. Would have becomes would have. And it is becomes it's. In all of these cases, the apostrophe stands in for the missing letters. Apostrophes are also used in acronyms and numbers. Quotation marks. You may not find yourself needing to use dialogue very often in academic writing, but you may be asked to write narrative essays in some classes, which often contain dialogue. You also will need to use quotation marks when you are quoting other people's words, which will happen in almost every genre of academic writing. When you use dialogue, it's important to use quotation marks to set apart the speech from the rest of your text. Otherwise, separating the dialogue from the rest of the writing can be very confusing for the readers. When to use quotation marks? You should use quotation marks anytime you use words directly from another source. Sometimes students think putting a citation or reference at the end covers it, but no, you must use the quotation marks to indicate which words you borrowed from your source. There are four typical ways quotation marks are used. The first is pretty self-explanatory. You use quotation marks when you're making a direct quote or when you're calling attention to a word. You also use quotation marks to highlight the title of a relatively short creative work or part of a larger body of work, such as newspaper article, poem, or chapter. Larger bodies of work, such as books, magazines, newspapers, are usually italicized or written in italics. Scare quotes, quotation marks that a writer places around a word or phrase to signal that they are using it in a non-standard, ironic, or otherwise special sense. This is the most misused type of quotation marks. People often think that quotation marks mean emphases. Now we're going to talk about commas as separators. Transition words add new viewpoints to your material. Commas before and after transition words help to separate them from the sentence ideas that they are describing. Descriptive phrases need to be separated from the things that they describe, and adjacent items separated so that the reader can consider each item individually. Think about when you use commas in your written essays. You use it to separate words, right? But these words are related to each other. Like, I like to go dancing, comma, singing, comma, and walking on the stage. Maybe that's what this person likes. So, but anyways, you're using commas to separate different words, but they're kind of related to each other. In my example, you are separating the words that this person enjoys with commas. Conjunctions and lists. Coordinating conjunctions are words that join two words or phrases of equal importance. Remember, equal importance. When these conjunctions join two words or phrases, no comma is necessary. So you remember the mnemonic fanboys, F-A-N-B-O-Y-S. You remember that word to remember the 7 most common conjunctions. For, and, nor, but, or, yet, so. When these conjunctions are used to join two complete ideas, a comma is required. Semicolons. They're also called the connectors. They connect two independent clauses. First, a semicolon can connect two complete ideas. A complete idea is an independent clause which has a subject and a verb and can stand on its own as a sentence that are related to each other and or equal. Colons are considered the signposts. The colon is like a sign on the freeway announcing that something important is coming. It acts as an arrow pointing forward, telling you to read on for important information. It's a common analogy used to explain the colon is that it acts as a flare in the road, signaling that something meaningful lies ahead. You use the colon when you wish to provide emphasis. You use the colon to introduce material that explains or summarizes what has preceded it. You use the colon to present a list of series, particularly when there is a lot of similar material to join, or when the item in the list includes commas. Now, what are sentence fragments? Fragments are simply grammatically incomplete sentences. They are phrases and dependent clauses. These are grammatical structures that cannot stand on their own. They need to be connected to an independent clause to work in writing. So, how can we tell the difference between a sentence and a sentence fragment? And how can we fix fragments when they already exist? A sentence fragment is simply a sentence that is missing one of its crucial elements, a subject, a verb, or a complete thought. One of the reasons we write in fragments is because we often speak that way. But in writing, it's different. You have to convey your complete thought in a sentence. run-on sentence. Run-on sentences occur when two or more independent clauses are improperly joined. That means they don't relate to each other, but then they're in the same sentence. Often in a run-on sentence, the independent clauses are simply joined without any punctuation or coordinating conjunction like and, so, for. Another type of run-on that you've probably heard is the comma splice, in which two independent clauses are joined by a comma without a coordinating conjunction like and or but. So common causes of run-on sentences is we often write run-on sentences because we sense that the sentences involved are closely related, and dividing them with a period just doesn't seem right. But it has to sound right and it has to look right. It has to have complete thoughts, and the different parts of the sentences should relate to each other. So here's a quick review. Now that you have learned to recognize and resolve readability errors, develop a strategy for incorporating these skills into your writing process. Below are some guidelines for doing so. Revise for readability in later stages of your writing process. In the early stages of writing, focus on just the ideas. Don't worry about the details and where the comma should go and stuff. But you need to revise it for readability. Leave time between drafting and revising for readability. Don't rush your writing assignment when it's due on Sunday. Don't start your writing assignment on Saturday. Give it time. You need time to just draft it all out and not worry about the details. And then you need time to revise it for readability. Leave time between drafting and revising for readability. Readability errors become more evident after you have stepped away from a project for a while and then return to it later. Doesn't that sometimes make sense in the rest of our lives? Like we are trying to fix this problem, a math problem or something, a computer problem, and all it takes is for you to just step away, just relax a bit, go outside, breathe, take a stroll, and then come back all rejuvenated, refreshed, maybe after a meal. And then you could catch your mistakes often. Not when you're staring at it for 3-4 hours. That's not going to help. Make proofreading or editing a vital part of your writing process. Very important. Use your text-to-speech tools. Use your proofreading tools. Use all kinds of tools. Don't rush your writing. It's a process. It's a drafting process and a revising process, and you revise it until it is correct and that it makes sense.